In the quiet heart of Indiana, the year 1947 held its breath. The small town of OakHaven, nestled deep within the Hoosier landscape, was a place of hushed whispers and averted gazes. For months, strange reports had trickled out, tales of shadows that moved on their own and voices that spoke from empty rooms. These were not the usual ghost stories. They were accounts of a pervasive dread, a coldness that settled in the bones. Yet, the outside world dismissed them as rural superstition, the product of isolated minds. No one truly believed OakHaven's growing terror. Elias Thorne, a young journalist with ambition burning in his chest, saw not a hoax, but an opportunity. He arrived in OakHaven with a worn notebook and a healthy dose of skepticism. His editor had scoffed, but Elias was determined to uncover a human interest story, perhaps even expose a local charlatan. He expected to find simple folk clinging to old wives' tales. What he found instead was a silence that spoke volumes, a palpable fear etched onto every face. The air itself seemed heavy, charged with an unseen presence. Elias began his interviews, moving from the general store to the dusty town archives. The stories were consistent, chillingly so. Objects shifting, cold spots appearing, and a pervasive sense of being watched. No one could explain it, and no one dared to speak too loudly. He dismissed the first few odd occurrences he witnessed. A door creaking open when no breeze stirred, a faint whisper just beyond hearing. But as days turned into nights, the incidents grew more frequent, more insistent. The rational explanations began to crumble. His investigation led him to the town's forgotten history, buried beneath layers of time and deliberate omission. He discovered old maps, faded deeds, and cryptic entries in a long-abandoned church ledger. There was a dark secret, a pact made generations ago, tied to the very land OakHaven stood upon. The supernatural activity wasn't random, it was a consequence. A forgotten ritual, a broken promise, had awakened something ancient and malevolent. The town wasn't just haunted, it was ensnared. The truth, when it finally coalesced, was far more terrifying than any ghost story. It wasn't just spirits, it was a lingering entity, feeding on the fear it generated. Elias realized the townspeople weren't just afraid of the unknown, they were trapped by it, bound by a curse they didn't understand. His discovery, however, did not go unnoticed. The entity, once content to merely torment, now turned its full, chilling attention to him. He had disturbed its slumber, threatened its dominion. The whispers grew louder, the shadows bolder. Elias found himself hunted, not by men, but by an unseen force that permeated every corner of OakHaven. The air grew colder, the silence more profound, broken only by the sound of his own frantic breath. He had uncovered the shocking truth, but it came with a deadly price. The entity was closing in, its presence suffocating. He knew he had to escape, to expose OakHaven's horrifying secret to the world. But the town, once a quiet haven, had become a living tomb, and he was now its newest, most desperate prisoner.